And then I'm going to follow up by introducing our acting president of the Rediscover Mapledale, Kelly Lawler. Thank you so much for coming today.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. I am Kelly Lawler, and right now I'm the interim president. We were going to have an annual meeting today after this event, but we are going to cancel it because we just need more board members for a quorum. So we just want to make that announcement. I also want to say a land acknowledgement first before we get started to recognize the indigenous peoples that were on this land before the golf course was here and are still here today. This golf course and the Randall estate before it were built in the territory of the Nipmuc people. Nipmuc translates to fresh water people, and their homelands are characterized by a series of interconnecting rivers, lakes, and ponds, including the Assabet River, which borders this section of the course. As freshwater people, the Nipmuc are inalienable from the lands that birthed and sustained them. Pre-contact, the Nipmuc were not a single people, but rather a series of families, villages, individuals who settled throughout the region. Together, we acknowledge, recognize, and thank the Nipmuc people for their stewardship of this land. That is a sign that we have. So a little bit about me, and the reason why I have to tell you a little bit about myself is because Sean Osborne's making me. He is a storyteller. He's our acclaimed storyteller. This is why the event is centered around him. But he said I had to do a little storytelling of my own. So, thank you for being here. We are so sorry that we had to cancel and reschedule, but those blizzards have just been coming, you know, with not a lot of notice. Your presence today here matters, and we really appreciate you being here for us to tell these stories. The town of Stow was incorporated in 1683 and was originally known as Pompasiticate Plantation. It has long been known for its rural character, wide stretches of farmland, and apple orchards. I am not native to Massachusetts, and sometimes people don't really know my accent. I was born in Fort Worth, Texas. When I was in middle school, and I'm a middle school teacher, when I was in middle school, my dad said we're moving to New Jersey. So this little blonde girl only knew the state of Texas, said y'all and how you doing, has to move to New Jersey, where I had to say you guys. How are you guys doing? And my questions, you know, my inflection goes up a little bit like I'm asking a question. So, Massachusetts, that's a whole nother story, but I've been here for over 10 years, and in 2020, I joined this organization on Facebook because that's how things were happening in 2020. And it was called the Neshoba Area Social Justice Alliance. I was introduced to amazing people that were already doing work in town. The Historical Society, the Conservation Trust, the town itself was doing a lot of work. And I heard about the history of this golf course. Robert H. Hawkins in 1926 came here and built the first 9 holes into a golf course when this was just a family farmstead. Randall Road is named after Dr. John Randall, and our library in town, if you just go right up the road, is called Randall Library because he bequeathed $10,000 to start that library. So there's a lot of history here, and after that, in 1926, Robert H. Hawkins gets this piece of land, and that's what Sean Osborne is going to talk to you about in just a minute. I have a whole lot of history of golf on here, But when Robert H. Hawkins purchased the Randall estate in 1926, our population was right around 1,000 people, to kind of think about that. Today, we're around 7,000 people in the town of Stow. So, you know, even if you're local and you look at Hudson or Maynard, they're much larger populations than what we have here in Stow and what we've been able to sustain here. The first country club that was founded in 1893 in Brookline, known as the Country Club, was just 6 holes before expanding to 18, and it became one of those 5 charter clubs that established the United States Golf Association. So New England golf is important, right? And in Stow, this year is 2026, and it's 100 years of golf in our town. So I think that deserves a round of applause. Thanks to Robert H. Hawkins. All right. Together, you know, we gather to better understand that history, and all of us come here from those different identities. I'm a full-time working mom. I work as a teacher, and I volunteer at Rediscover Mapledale, the nonprofit that we've been able to build here. We have done so much in the past 3 years, and we just formed our nonprofit in 2025. I just want to give you a list of all the things we've accomplished. We've created 4 interpretive signs commemorating the history of Mapledale Country Club. Visionary. Hello? Okay. We're all good, Dave. Thank you. With its visionary founder, Robert H. Hawkins. So today you can't go see the signs, but there is one as you're driving in across from the old driving range. And we have images of the signs right here as you walk out. So we want to continue to celebrate that history starting this year and continue it for another 100 years. And we will have our golf tournament right here, the 3rd annual Robert H. Hawkins Charity Golf Tournament on August 29th. But get your dancing shoes on, because we'll have the golf tournament in the afternoon this year, and it'll be followed by a gala. So right here, we'll have dancing, we'll have live music, we'll have a lot of entertainment and prizes, and we hope to open up this event to non-golfers as well. This year, we have raised $3,500 from the Freedom's Way National Heritage Area. So this is a free event, but we are accepting donations. We would like to match that donation with $3,500, and we're getting pretty close. We're starting to get to 500 to match those donations. And on your way out, we also have a piece of legislation that we're signing to support Indigenous peoples in Massachusetts. If you choose to sign it, that's completely up to you. All right, I think those were some of the main business things that I wanted to get to. And why does Black history, is it important to me? We're really living in a time where I didn't know a lot of Black history, and I was from Fort Worth, Texas. And lately I was just talking to my students about Juneteenth. As a teacher, we're getting more snow days, and that means we're going to go after Juneteenth. So this is like the barometer for figuring out, when is the school year going to end? A lot of our schools are up for 4 or 5 days where we have snow days over what we originally expected. I was born in Fort Worth, Texas, and I didn't know about Opal Lee. Opal Lee advocated her entire life to get a Freedom Day. She advocated, she marched when she was in her 80s from Fort Worth, Texas to Washington, D.C. to finally get her lifelong goal goal of this holiday on the books. And she finally got it in 2022. Biden signed it into law. And I lived there my whole life until middle school, if you were paying attention. And I didn't know about that history, right? After 2020, there was a reporter that said they lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and never knew about the history in Tulsa from 1921. Black history has warned us, and I think it will continue to warn us and give us the tools that we need to fight and to resist oppression and to fight for justice. So that is my obsession with Hawkins and Rediscover Mapledale, and it helps that I'm right down the road. So that is why we're here today. All right, so I have to introduce Sean Osborne. I get to introduce Sean Osborne. And if you read any of our newsletters, you would see, or if you checked us out on social media, Sean Osborne very recently did some advocating of himself. And he, just 2 weeks ago, he was with the governor and they signed a bill to commemorate Tuskegee Airmen Commemoration Day, the Thursday of March. So that is signed into our MA legislation. The bill has passed this year, and he's done a lot of that advocacy work. So let's just give him a round of applause for that recent win. He is a public historian who enjoys sharing his research through stories and exhibitions. He's performed at schools, museums, different work environments. Mr. Osborne is a collaborative problem solver. He's the founder and principal of the OSD Engineering Consultants. He's also the co-founder and past president of the Association of Black Citizens of Lexington and was recognized as 2021's Black Excellence on the Hill honoree by the Massachusetts Black and Latino Legislative Caucus. As an ABCL historian, he continues to research, create programs, and share history that uplifts Black history in his town of Lexington. And he's also the owner of Tricorn 2 Red Tails, a multi-platform production company. He creates programs highlighting the stories of Black veterans and their communities. He's a great resource, and we are so lucky to have him. Here we go, Sean. It's your turn.
Then we're all set. So I came here representing the history of golf. Some of you recognize my green pants. Perhaps it's my plaid shirt. Golf is, for me, this odd sport. Because, well, not just for the obvious reasons, chasing around a white ball with a stick, but the other part, which is there are very few professional sports where you can also be an amateur and play in the same field. No one says, hey, let's play pickup where the Celtics play. Right? No one's like, you know what? Let's go to Foxborough and play a little football. No, right? I have this really stellar baseball team here in Stow. Let's go to Fenway. Right? No one said that, but hey, you can play on a golf course where PGA professionals play. It's strange. And maybe it's because this game that was created by poor folks in Ireland and Scotland started off with the French, right? It was a game of aristocracy with some not feudal landlords, but the feudal peasants in Scotland and Ireland said, hey, let's chase around a small ball with a stick. And so we have the green for the Catholics of Ireland, and then we have the plaid for the Scottish clans. It's important to remember that in America, we love our WASPs and don't like our Catholics, especially in the late 1800s and 1900s. And so we don't think about the Irish as being founders of golf because golf came back to America in the 1890s, and we said, yay, the Scots are Protestant, bring them on in. The Irish, no Irish allowed, no Irish welcome, right? So we have that split in the history. That means that if you are like me and you remember that fun game, croquet, right? That to me was the master's course. Me in my backyard and a croquet set. And so that leads me to 1977, when my father is stationed at Fort Gordon, Georgia. Fort Gordon happens to be near Augusta, Georgia, which means you drive down Bobby Jones Highway, and you turn left towards the Masters Golf Course, or you turn right, further down to the right, and you go to Fort Gordon. We went further down to the right, right? So my father had fallen in love with golf in Germany before he got there. So he and my brother did golf. I watched golf, they played golf. I did croquet. What I didn't know was that every April while we were living in outside of Augusta, Georgia, there was some guy named Lee Elder playing at the Masters. Because we missed the hoopla of 75 his first time. And you know how it is. The first time, after that, whatever. So, all that hoopla we missed, all that Black history I mentioned, we missed. We being me, I'm sure my brother or my father, oh yeah, of course, but I did not catch on to that history. As was discussed, I love my Black veterans. I love all veterans, but I especially love my Black veterans. So Lee Elder was a veteran. There you go. Right. Teacher, right? He was a veteran. And so it's the Black veterans and the HBCUs that helped to popularize golf. One of them who loved golf was a gentleman named Chappie James. Chappie James was the first Black four-star general in the armed forces. Chappie James was also a Tuskegee Airman. Chappie James was also 6'4", 6'5", 230-pound former college lineman. So he squeezed himself into the cockpit to fly those fighter planes in the Korean War and Vietnam. Because in World War II, he was a trainer, primarily. But how does this guy end up falling in love with golf? This Black guy, he's a World War II veteran and fall in love with golf. Well, it starts off with growing up in a very strict household in Florida. How strict was it? It was so strict that his mother said, you know what? These public schools suck. I'm gonna homeschool all of you and your friends. Yeah, exactly. That's a strong-willed mother. And then she said, and you're gonna learn. I don't care how big you are, you're going to learn. And so he did. As he grew, and he grew, and the folks at Tuskegee Institute came calling and said, would you mind playing for our football team? He said, don't you guys have a pilot program for civilian pilots? He said, yes, it's excellent. Yes, I'd love to play for you. And so he goes to Tuskegee because of the civilian pilot training program. And it's that experience that allows him to transfer from being a civilian to a military pilot. And thus, he became a Tuskegee Airman. he falls in love with golf. And so those of you who were in DC in the 70s when he was there might have seen him on the military courses. One of the favorite courses for folks in the military is the one at Andrews Air Force Base. I know that because my father fell in love with golf in Germany and played in Georgia and didn't bring me. Was out with his favorite grandson. Yes, you heard me. His favorite grandson, who played on the Hampton HBCU golf team. And they're out golfing, and there's security. You know, people pointing. Like, I wonder who else is out here. They look over, and it's then President Obama out golfing. So like, well, I guess we'll make sure that we hang out at the club to talk to him afterwards. And so they did, and they have a picture. President Obama. So it's that ability to meet kings and queens and presidents on a golf course that makes, I can see many of you out there are already golfers, that makes golf special. Right? That is the beauty of golf, is that it's a grand equalizer. The rough doesn't care. Right? Who you are. And you have your good days, and you have your bad days. Now for me, my bad day was going to the driving range and realizing that I shanked really well. So that was as far as I got. I think I putt well because of my cocaine skills. But I can't read the green. But golf can become very, very addictive for some. Some of you may remember the Brown Bomber, Joe Louis. Joe Louis was introduced to golf in 1935 by Ed Sullivan. 1935, he's on top of the world. 1936, he has a small fight with some guy from Germany. What's his name? Yes, Max Schmeling, right? Max Schmeling's an old man. Joe Louis is on top of his game. Joe Louis says, I would love to do this, a little more training, but there's a golf course next door. So he says in his autobiography, I needed another round of golf like I need another hole in my head. But that's where his mind was when he should have been practicing. His mind was out there in the sun, not taking care of his fluids, not taking care of his weight, not taking care of his tactics. He had fallen in love with golf. And let's get knocked out. But for black golfers, that was outstanding because he then becomes a patron of black golf. And it's that part with Joe Louis, who also was a
veteran.
Thank you, Mr. Q. Thank you, a veteran. You know, I turn to you and let you teachers these days. And so another veteran, but we're here to talk about Robert Hawkins, right? So Robert Hawkins, the father of Negro golf. He's not a veteran. He filled out his draft papers for World War I, but as a 29-year-old with a father who was a widower, was a little late in the war, they got around to the draft portion, he was able to not go into service. But when we meet Robert Hawkins, the war is over. It's 1926. And he is with the loan officer trying to convince them that he should purchase this 160-acre farm in the middle of nowhere. Sorry, in Stow. And that he can make this farm into a business enterprise. So, Mr. Hawkins, I see your application. I see you have some experience in golf, but you've never owned a golf course. You've never owned a hotel or anything like that. Why should we take this risk? I have done everything but, he says to an officer. I had been the general manager of a country club. In fact, that's what I was doing anyway. I was the head steward in Vermont. I was the caddy master in Vermont. I started as a wee one. A 9-hole golf course near Mount Greylock. I know golf. I have seen the courses built. I have seen them maintained. I have maintained them. I have walked those loops countless times. This is just the next step. Okay. But you failed, right? You had a course in Billerica that failed. Yes, you did ask for a complete application. Some friends and I, and some friends of friends, some doctors, other professionals, and folks working on railroads, we got together and we said, okay, we're going to buy this land in Billerica and we're going to make it into a 9-hole golf course. But we couldn't raise the funds for a 9-hole golf course, so it was a 3-hole executive course. 3 holes. I know. It wasn't my idea, but again, there are lots of us in there, and the consensus was that 3 holes made the most sense. The idea was all of those black golfers were traveling to Connecticut and New Jersey to play on those 5-hole courses, but want to stay locally and play on our future 9-hole course. A reasonable plan, said one officer, but what happened? Well, everybody said, I'll either play on 5 holes or 9 holes, or I will not play at all. Oh, yes, thus we failed. And that's why they are not here in the room today. So this farm, I see a 20-room mansion, colonial. It's probably not in great shape. What's your plan there? My wife and I discussed this. She has convinced me that we should convert part of it to a grand ballroom. Because that place in Connecticut I mentioned, that's what they have. They have a grand ballroom, and it's wonderful for people to use for other events because we have to make money on more than just the greens. Well, who's going to take care of those rooms? Edith. All of them? Edith. Yes. Edith will take care of all. In fact, we'll be living there. Okay. So you have 18 rooms, a ballroom. I don't see a locker room. We're going to have to spend some money for a locker room. That'll be built separate. Okay. So we're in the winter. You're going to need to have income right away. So what are your plans? I have these two friends from DC. Friends again? Do you really trust friends? Yes, I have these friends from DC, and they helped me become an officer in this new organization. Is that this USCGA I see in here? Yes, the USCGA, the United States Colored Golfers Association. Okay, so it's a brand new group of friends, and they're going to help me get money how? Well, they're going to bring 30 to 40 of the best golfers across the country to Stow. Oh, well, that sounds good. When are they coming? Labor Day. Huh. And how do you plan on building this 9-hole golf course out by then? Well, we have some flat area, Mother Farm, and we're going to convert that into that's going to be our first 9. There's a friend of mine that is a golf pro nearby, and he's going to help me lay out the other 9, and hopefully we'll get enough money so that by 27, 28, we'll have an 18-hole golf course. If this fails, what do you plan on doing? What I always do. Get up the next day and work. I'll talk to my superior and we'll get back to you. Thank you. So, he leaves, and of course, because we're here, we know that he did get that loan. And when he got the loan, he and Edith came here and they did what lots of folks still do here in Stow, which is they take walks. And so they would walk, and they would talk. They would walk, and they would talk. So around August, Edith is starting to get a little nervous. She's like, I'm not seeing a lot of income here, honey. What are we gonna be doing? I said, well, I know we're going to have a lot of black golfers coming in from around the country at the end of the summer. We need money now, so I think that we should start advertising to all golfers, not just black golfers. Okay. So maybe, our day golfers will be the white golfers in the greater Stow area. And what are we going to do in addition to golf? Well, we'll have some stables for the horses, because we already have the barn. So folks can ride the horses. We need some games where people can work on their putt. What can we do? Yes, croquet. Yes, we're going to put in some croquet as well. So we got some croquet, we got horseback riding. Yeah, I think we people can do some walk, we get charged for that, and we'll have, of course, a place for people to have their parties. Sounds great. A few weeks later, people are coming, money's coming in. Edith says, how can I help you get ready for the tournament? I said, I have not made it to Arlington Heights. Would you mind going to Arlington Heights? I have a note back in our room. There was this company that manufactured teas for a Dr. Bryant up in Arlington. Could you go see if they have any more wooden teas? Okay, who's this Dr. Bryant? He was this guy who invented wooden teas. He died like 15 years ago. He was an okay golfer, but a really good dentist. And she goes off and she gets the teas. They're slightly different than the ones we have over here. But the beauty of the wooden tea was that pinching up the sand just right, so to get tee off is not very good. But there were some golfers who had such a smooth and regular swing that they used a matchbook for tee. Now, those of us who've tried to bring a matchbook home from a restaurant and got it smushed and crushed, know how hard it is when you're swinging to not crush that matchbox. But there were some golfers who did that. So they had the wooden tees. So then along comes Labor Day weekend. And she says, who's coming? He's like, you wouldn't know. No, who's coming? I said, well, Mr. and Mrs. Pat Ball are coming. Mrs. Ball may not pay, but she's really good, I hear. But this Pat Ball, he is an up-and-comer out of Chicago. He's not like me, right? He's lean. He doesn't wear glasses. He has a receding hairline. We're about the same complexion. But again, he's not as fortunate as I am because you by far are much more beautiful than his wife. But he is a better golfer. Anybody else I know? Do you remember the story of John Shippen that I told you? Some old guy? Yes. Anything else? New Jersey? Yes. Isn't there some blonde girl from Texas gonna move there sometime? Yes, there is gonna be some blonde girl from New Jersey later on. John Shippen is coming. What? She said, be nice. And so I explained to her who John Shippen was. He said, before the PGA decided that it was important for them to have a black-only rule, the second PGA Open was played by one black man and one Native American. And he came in fifth. And he was upset because he had a bad day. And he played in 5 more before he could play anymore. And so he's been relegated to a lower paying circuit that we are now trying to do as the USCGA. We're trying to bring all those colored golf tournaments together, all those players together, so that we can pool together the money so that people can make a living. So John Shippen is coming because he is that trailblazer that is making us do what we are doing now. So he will not get a chance to eat the fruits of the trees that we are planting, but we are eating the fruits of the trees that we plant. They have tournament and have all places and Shippen's place. And they have another tournament here. Then they have a third tournament here. And then as things happen to both black and white home golf courses, especially in New England where there is a season. It failed. And like he said to the loan officer, he got up and he worked. And he got up and she worked. And they had other business ventures. They kept their interest in golf throughout World War II. And then they were at an event, and some reporter from the Pittsburgh Courier took their picture and captioned it, Mr. and Mrs. Hawkins. He's the father of Negro golf. A few weeks later, they are taking their walk, as they still continue to do. And Edith said, so what do you think? Are you the father of Negro golf? And he said, maybe. He said, so are you proud of what you've done? And he said, I'm proud of what I started. Do you remember that one thing I asked you for that you didn't get me for that first tournament? He said, there's only one thing? Yes. I asked for a set of Dewey Brown golf clubs. And you said we couldn't afford them. You told me that Dewey Brown was too far above our pay allotment, and that because he had made clubs for President Harding, that the price was a little bit too steep for us. He said, yeah, but can we do it now? She said, no. He's following in my footsteps. He just bought a golf course. Really? Yes. And his boys love to play golf. In fact, I heard that his oldest kid was a Tuskegee Airman. Really? Yeah, so that's what makes me proud. It's not that I am the father of Negro golf, or that some think of me as the father of Negro golf. But no, it's the fact that there are children and grandchildren of Negro golf. And one day, they will just be the children and grandchildren of golf, because all golf courses across the country and across the world will be open to all people, men and women, black and white. Thank you.
You want to have a Q&A?
All right. Thank you, Sean, for that lovely storytelling event. I loved talking about Robert H. Hawkins and all these different connections from New Jersey to Massachusetts. There were lots of them from the Shady Refs golf course in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. They worked with our golf course here, and Robert H. Hawkins was here, and they partnered to bring people together for the very 3 golf tournaments that we had here in 1926, 27, and 28. So we'll just start with the Q&A. Any questions on the table? No. Should we give any parameters?
No, wide open.
All right.
Yeah, I was curious as to how Robert Hawkins was received as a black man in a very white community. Was there any tension, reports of that?
Right, sorry. You can't hear us.
So the question was about any tension for Robert Hawkins as a black man in Adams, Mass, in Burlington, Vermont, in Wayland, Mass, in New England. So what's interesting is that We don't know what his day-to-day life was like. We do know that he was able to become caddy master, general manager, steward. So he was able to rise up in terms of caddy master and steward into positions that had also been occupied by other black people. Now, when he becomes general manager in Wayland in the 20s, he's the first black person to hold that position in all of New England. And so the question for me would be, nevertheless, he still wanted to have his own, right? Ownership is still the goal of most people who have the entrepreneurial spirit, and most caddies are entrepreneurs. But I can't really, that's the way I answer your question about reception, is just from that portion, I'm going to speculate. Thank you.
Sir.
What was the course in is it Sandy Burr in Wayland? Which course?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That was built in 1922, right?
I was going to look it up right now.
Yeah, it's built in 22. I'll tell you, it's 22. All right. More questions? Yes, sir.
Do you know what parts of this golf course were, like what parts of the original golf course? Is it just Stow South?
Yes. Yes, Stow South.
That's Stow South is the, so
Which?
if you go out and play Stow South, you're playing.
Right, that lower nine. In the 3 years, even though it was a 2-day, 72-hole tournament, it was still only a 9-hole. So the loop was over 9 holes.
Right. But all right. Do those holes still exist out there?
The hole still exists.
So Dave Carlson, so we made 4 signs. We did some history work on those 4 signs, and we wanted to place them historically in accurate positions, that were probably closest to this building were those 9 holes. Dave Carlson is working on building a map. As you can see, they did lose the old driving range. They've replaced that driving range right behind us. And it's a year-round driving range now, so they've made a lot of improvements. But they had to change holes recently, so they are working to build a new map of what the course looks like today, and then we hope to put our best guess at what we think a map looked like back then. We have a lot more records from the 60s and 70s than we do from the 1920s and the 1930s, unfortunately. Robert H. Hawkins no longer had ownership of this course after 1929.
Yes, ma'am.
So in 1929, did they rescue the course, and was the course successful, or was that, did it shut down for a while and someone picked it up? Like, what happened that year?
You touched me.
It's also during the Depression.
Right. So it's still a golf course. So I mentioned that he worked at a golf course in Burlington, Vermont. That course in Burlington, Vermont, white owned. They built up their membership. They bought the land. They were all happy. They expanded it from 9 holes to 18 holes. And then came the Great Depression, and they too shut down. This one, though, was able to continue, and he worked. He and his wife were seen working here in the area, later on in Arlington, and then in Fairfield. So it's nice that we were able to, that it's been continuously as a golf course since then. How many of you are golfers? And how many of you have handicaps single digit? Single digit handicaps? I see one child who might have one later. No, 3 of you. Oh, 4. All right. And how many of you played in college? Nice. And then on the flip side, how many of you went to HBCUs? Which one's where?
Tuskegee.
Is that somewhere in I know? Tuskegee and Alabama? Okay, Tuskegee. Yeah. And yes, sir?
Howard, yeah, DC.
Ah, right. Howard has,
I didn't play golf then, but.
so there's a, one of the older black golf courses, public, is in DC, near Howard. Langston Hughes, right? Right. Yes, sir.
Could you talk a little bit more about Joe Lewis and his role in this? Because my brother lives in DC and I've played the Langston course. And he told me about the Joe Lewis tree that apparently he would try to cut the corner on this hole and hit this tree every time. But the role of Joe Lewis in making, golf more visible for black golfers, I think.
Right, so Joe Lewis, as I mentioned, he falls in love with golf, right? It is his pastime. And so when professional golfers are trying to break into the PGA, it is Joe Lewis who plays a role in both moving the ball forward as a peacekeeper. And that's what people usually think about. But what he also did was he paid the entrance fees for black golfers tournaments, not in the South where they play, and would then help them get to those tournaments in Canada as well. And then later on, so like here in Stow, the purse was $300. He was then sponsoring courses that had $1,000 and $2,000 purses. So if you are a black golfer and you're trying to make a living playing golf, the bigger the purse, the more likely it is that you will make it through the rest of the month. So that's what. Oh, and what he also was doing was he also was bringing in some of the older black golfers and having them be his personal trainer. And so one of the people who he was, what did he say? He said he gave away so much of his earnings on the golf course. He would bet anything, and it was two parts. One was he knew that there were golfers who were too proud to ask for money, so he'd lose. And then there were others that were too proud to say they couldn't pay him back, so even when he won, he wouldn't collect. And so when he meets a young Lee Elder who's talking trash and trying to hustle him, afterwards he brings him into the fold and has his golf pro work with him. Right? So that's who Joe Lewis was. Thank you for the question. Sorry. No, please.
I wonder why we don't see more coverage of this history on Boston television or national television. There's so many programs about golf, or just daily news. This would be a great story.
I completely agree. As I mentioned to Kelly, when she said, "So, Sean, I am not a golfer." Except for when I was living in Georgia, when stock car racing and golf was always on TV, I was a fan. But it's not my thing. I never got that addiction. But reading the stories of golf, so many great stories that could be easily turned into an easy snippet at some point on the golf channel, right? And as Kelly said, there's so many intersections, right? With Bobby Jones Highway, right? Which I didn't know who Bobby Jones was and where it went, but that connection between Bobby Jones and black golf, right? That connection between fight integration and baseball and golf, right? There's so many ways, right, to tell the story. You have Thea Gibson, pick up golf. Right? So there's a lot of ways to talk about American history in golf and expand our vision. So I love your idea. Any producers in the room? Well, hopefully they'll see this online and they'll think about your questions. Thank you.
That might be a good segue too. Okay, great. Thank you again. Can we give him another round, Sean Osborne? All right, so I didn't want to bore you too much, but the coverage we've received so far is WGBH, all right, and the Worcester Business Journal. So that's what we've received so far. There are articles out there that we can send you, and we'll have a news subsection on our website so that you can see all of our old news postings. But we want to continue to tell this story, and we need your help. We are just a nonprofit, just very volunteer run. So I'm the acting president. Dave Carlson's our acting VP right now, and Lindsay Dida's our acting secretary over there. So if there's any way that you can help us with ideas, with connecting us to people, we are working with the UGA. They're the United Golfers Association today. They dropped the colored in the UGA, and they dropped a C in their name because they wanted to be inclusive. Robert H. Hawkins included women here, white people here, people were included here. So it was really focused early on with that vision of inclusion and equity and making golf accessible for everyone. So that's what we're trying to continue to do here at Rediscover Mapledale in our very small part of the world in Stow, Massachusetts. So thank you so much for coming. If you can drop off a comment card, if you can sign up on our newsletter, we will be posting this thanks to Stow TV and on their YouTube television page, and we'll have updates in our local independent newspaper for right now. But please come back to see Sean Osborne June 27th. We're going to have a reading of Frederick Douglass. What to the Slave is the 4th of July. We very much believe that Black history is American history and that it's something we should all learn and know more about, right? Because like I said earlier, Black history has warned us. And he will be here June 27th? 2 hours. So what's first hour? 11? First hour. Storytelling, yes. Yes, it's a 2-hour event.
It's a 2-hour event. First one's at 11?
Yes.
So at 11 o'clock, it's all ages storytelling. So the question always is, what to a slave is the 4th of July? And so we'll be looking at stories from colonial America to the Civil War about what was 4th of July to enslaved people and non-enslaved Black people. And then at
1 o'clock?
And then
we move it up.
Moved up.
10:30 and 12:30.
Yes. In the morning, it's 2 hours in a row. So come early for the storytelling, and then stay for the interactive communal reading of that wonderful speech that was about the Fugitive Slave Act by Frederick Douglass that he gave much to New York, What to the Slave is 4th of July.
So we're really lucky to have Sean Osborne back here. If it's nice weather, we'll be out on the porch, we'll be outside. And also August 29th, golf tournament at 1 o'clock here, out on the links. And our gala is going to be at 6:30. Anyone can come. You can just come to the golf tournament. You can just come to the gala. It's going to be so much fun because we are celebrating 100 years of Robert H. Hawkins. Thank you, everybody.